In the heart of Montana's wilderness, a haunting cry pierces the air. A massive grizzly bear, once the forest's apex predator, now lies trapped and bleeding. As John approaches, their eyes lock. In this moment, hunter and hunted connect, forever altering the course of both their lives. In the heart of Montana's dense forests, where every rustle whispered a story and each shadow concealed a mystery, John Hawkins embarked on a journey that would forever alter his life. A seasoned hunter with a deep-rooted passion for the outdoors, John had always felt most at home among the towering pines and rugged terrain. His love for hunting was a legacy, passed down from his father, a renowned outdoorsman who had taught John everything he knew about tracking, survival, and respect for nature. John's mind wandered to cherished memories of hunting trips with his father as he trekked through the familiar wilderness. They had shared countless adventures in these very woods, bonding over the thrill of the chase and the quiet moments of reflection that only nature could provide. However, tragedy struck when John was just 11 years old. His father, the pillar of strength and wisdom in his life, was taken from him in a devastating car accident. The loss left a void in John's heart that he had been trying to fill ever since, seeking solace in the forests that held so many precious memories. Now at 35, John continued to honor his father's memory by embracing the traditions they once shared. Each hunting trip was a bittersweet reminder of the man who had shaped his life and instilled in him a deep respect for the natural world. Little did John know that this particular expedition would challenge everything he thought he knew about hunting and his role in the delicate balance of nature. The crisp autumn air filled John's lungs as he carefully made his way through the underbrush, his senses alert to every sound and movement around him. The forest was alive with activity, birds chirping their morning songs, squirrels scurrying across fallen logs, and the occasional rustle of leaves signaling the presence of larger animals nearby. John's trained eyes scanned the environment, searching for signs of his intended prey. Suddenly, an unsettling sound pierced through the tranquil forest atmosphere. It was a cry unlike anything John had ever heard before, a mix of pain, fear, and desperation that sent chills down his spine. Curiosity and concern overwhelmed his initial hesitation, compelling him to investigate the source of the distressing noise. With cautious steps, John moved towards the sound, his heart pounding in his chest. As he approached a small clearing, the sight that greeted him was both shocking and heartbreaking. There, in the middle of the glade, lay a massive grizzly bear, its powerful body entangled in a web of chains and barbed wire. The bear's fur was matted with blood and its eyes were wild with fear and agony. John's first instinct was to retreat. Grizzly bears were known for their ferocity, and approaching an injured one could be a death sentence. However, something in the animal's eyes, a plea for help, a glimmer of understanding, made John pause. In that moment, he saw beyond the fearsome predator to a fellow creature in desperate need. Taking a deep breath to steady his nerves, John made a decision that would alter the course of his life. He slowly set down his rifle, raising his empty hands in a gesture of peace. The bear's eyes followed his movements, its growls subsiding into pained whimpers. It was as if the animal understood that John was there to help, not harm. Meanwhile, the full extent of the bear's predicament became clear as John cautiously approached. The chains and barbed wire were part of an elaborate and cruel trap, designed to inflict maximum pain and prevent escape. The sight filled John with a mixture of anger and determination. Who could be so heartless as to inflict such suffering on a magnificent creature? With trembling hands, John began the painstaking process of freeing the bear. Each movement was calculated and deliberate, knowing that a single misstep could provoke the animal's defensive instincts. The bear, however, remained surprisingly calm, as if sensing John's intentions. As he worked to loosen the first chain, John's mind raced with memories of his father's teachings. "Remember, son," his father's voice echoed in his thoughts, "we're part of nature, not separate from it. Our role is to respect and protect, not just to take." Those words, which had seemed like simple wisdom in his youth, now took on a profound new meaning. The task was arduous and fraught with danger. The chains were thick and tightly wound, and the barbed wire had dug deep into the bear's flesh. John's hands soon became scratched and bloodied, but he pressed on, driven by a sense of moral obligation that transcended his fear. Soon the sun began to dip below the horizon, casting long shadows across the clearing. John finally managed to remove the last of the cruel bindings. The bear, exhausted and weak from its ordeal, collapsed onto the forest floor. John stepped back, his heart racing and his body trembling from the intensity of the experience. If this story of compassion and transformation is touching your heart, don't miss out on more inspiring tales. Hit that subscribe button now and join our community of animal lovers. Together, we can make a difference, one story at a time. Looking at the injured animal, John knew his work was far from over. The bear needed medical attention, and quickly. With shaking hands, he reached for his phone and dialed the local wildlife rescue center. "I need help," he said urgently, his voice cracking with emotion. "There's an injured grizzly bear about 5 miles east of the main trail. It's been trapped and is severely wounded. Please hurry." While waiting for help to arrive, John stayed with the bear, speaking to it in soft, soothing tones. He marveled at the strange turn of events. Here he was, a hunter now acting as a protector for an animal he might have once considered a trophy. The irony wasn't lost on him, and he felt a profound shift in his perspective on hunting and his relationship with nature. Eventually, the rescue team arrived and began treating the bear. John made a silent vow as he watched them work. He would no longer be content with simply following in his father's footsteps as a hunter. Instead, he would become a guardian of the wilderness, working to protect the very creatures he once pursued. This encounter had awakened something within him, a calling to make a difference, to be a voice for those who couldn't speak for themselves. In the days that followed, John couldn't shake the memory of the trapped bear. He found himself returning to the forest, not with a rifle in hand, but with a newfound purpose. He began to explore areas he had never ventured into before, his eyes now attuned to signs of human interference and animal distress. Furthermore, John's encounter with the bear had sparked a curiosity about the local wildlife that he had never experienced before. He started researching the habits and habitats of the animals he once hunted, gaining a deeper understanding of their role in the ecosystem. This newfound knowledge only strengthened his resolve to protect them. One crisp morning, as John was hiking through a remote part of the forest, he stumbled upon something that made his blood run cold. Hidden among the trees was another trap, similar to the one that had ensnared the bear. This time, however, it was empty, a silent predator waiting for its next victim. Without hesitation, John set about dismantling the trap. As he worked, he noticed subtle signs that suggested this wasn't an isolated incident. There were faint trails leading to and from the trap site, barely noticeable to the untrained eye. John's hunting skills, once used to track prey, now served a new purpose as he followed these trails, uncovering more traps along the way. The realization hit John like a punch to the gut. There was an organized effort to trap and harm the local wildlife. The scale of the operation suggested that this wasn't the work of a lone individual, but rather a group of people systematically targeting the forest's inhabitants. Determined to put an end to this cruelty, John began documenting everything he found. He took photographs of the traps, mapped their locations, and kept detailed notes of any other evidence he uncovered. He knew that to stop this, he would need more than just his own efforts. He would need to involve the authorities. However, John soon discovered that bringing this issue to light would be more challenging than he anticipated. When he first approached the local game wardens with his findings, he was met with skepticism. Some dismissed his concerns, suggesting that he was overreacting to standard hunting practices. Others seemed hesitant to investigate, hinting at a deeper, more troubling reason for their reluctance. Undeterred, John pressed on. He reached out to wildlife conservation groups, sharing his story and the evidence he had gathered. His passion and sincerity struck a chord with many, and soon he found himself at the center of a growing movement to protect the forest and its inhabitants. Determined to gather concrete evidence, John devoted himself entirely to the investigation. He took a sabbatical from his job, knowing that exposing these criminals would require his full attention. During the day, he visited the bear at the veterinary clinic, watching its gradual recovery under Dr. Harris's dedicated care. Each visit strengthened his resolve to bring the perpetrators to justice. Throughout the nights, John ventured deep into the forest, his hunter's instincts now serving a different purpose. He meticulously documented every trap he discovered, photographing their locations and recording their cruel designs. The evidence painted a disturbing picture of systematic animal torture that stretched across miles of wilderness. Meanwhile, Dr. Harris shared more troubling information about similar cases. The clinic had treated numerous animals, bears, deer, and smaller creatures, all bearing the same marks of deliberate cruelty. The pattern suggested an organized operation, one that had been operating unchecked for far too long. Weeks of patient surveillance finally yielded results. Hidden behind dense foliage, John observed two men moving through the forest with practiced stealth. Their movements were precise and purposeful, indicating years of experience in setting these brutal traps. John's heart raced as he recognized one of them, a local figure whose reputation for violence had kept others from speaking out. Through his camera lens, John documented their activities, his hands steady despite his growing anger. The men worked with cold efficiency, setting up new traps and checking existing ones. Their casual conversation about their cruel work, which John could barely hear from his position, revealed a complete disregard for the suffering they caused. One particularly cold night, John's persistence paid off. Following the men to a remote clearing, he captured irrefutable evidence of their crimes. His video footage showed them not only setting new traps but also discussing their operation with chilling detachment. The men spoke of buyers interested in animal parts and the profits they made from their illegal activities. With substantial evidence in hand, John approached the authorities once more. This time, he bypassed the local game wardens and went directly to state-level wildlife enforcement officials. The comprehensive documentation, photographs, videos, and detailed maps, left no room for doubt about the severity and scope of the crimes. The case took an unexpected turn when it was assigned to Judge Thompson, an old friend of John's father. The judge had heard rumors about these activities for years, but had never had enough evidence to act. Upon reviewing John's meticulously gathered proof, his face showed a mix of relief and determination. He shared with John how his father would have been proud of his transformation from hunter to protector. Soon the arrests were made. The courtroom fell silent as John's evidence was presented, the footage revealing the full extent of the operation's cruelty. The defendants' attempts to dismiss their actions as standard hunting practices crumbled in the face of overwhelming proof. Judge Thompson's verdict was unequivocal: lengthy prison sentences for both men, sending a clear message about the consequences of such brutality. The community's response to the convictions was immediate and powerful. Local news coverage of the case sparked widespread discussions about wildlife protection and ethical hunting practices. Many hunters, including some who had initially dismissed John's concerns, stepped forward to support stricter enforcement of hunting regulations. Throughout the trial and its aftermath, John maintained his connection with the rescued bear. The animal's recovery at the clinic became a symbol of hope and resilience. Dr. Harris kept John updated on its progress, sharing how the bear's wounds were healing and its strength returning. The medical team's dedication matched John's own commitment to justice, working tirelessly to repair the damage inflicted by human cruelty. Eventually, the day arrived for the bear's release back into the wild. The morning air was crisp and clear as John joined Dr. Harris and her team at the release site, deep in the forest where the bear had been found. The animal had made a remarkable recovery, its once matted fur now thick and healthy, its movements strong and confident. The moment of release was profound in its simplicity. As the cage door opened, the bear emerged slowly, its powerful frame silhouetted against the forest backdrop. For a brief moment, it turned to look at John, their eyes meeting one final time. In that silent exchange, John felt a deep connection to the creature he had saved, a reminder of the responsibility all humans share in protecting the natural world. Without fanfare, the bear disappeared into the forest, leaving only tracks in the soft earth as evidence of its passage. John stood motionless, watching until the last rustle of leaves faded away. This moment marked not just the end of one animal's ordeal, but the beginning of a new chapter in John's life. The experience had transformed him fundamentally. His father's lessons about respect for nature had taken on new meaning, evolving from the ethics of hunting to a broader commitment to wildlife protection. John knew that his work wasn't finished. There would always be those who viewed the forest and its inhabitants merely as resources to be exploited. In the following months, John channeled his energy into working with local wildlife protection organizations. He shared his knowledge of tracking and forest craft, now used to protect rather than hunt. His story inspired others to become more vigilant, creating a network of observers ready to report and prevent wildlife crimes. The forest, once John's hunting ground, had transformed into his sanctuary. Each visit reminded him of the bear and that life-altering moment, carrying lessons of compassion, justice, and the delicate balance between humanity and nature. These insights guided his every step. Months later, he stood in that same clearing, surrounded by the forest's rhythms, the call of birds, the rustling leaves, life continuing its eternal cycle. At last, he understood his father's teachings, that respecting nature meant not only taking from it, but protecting it for future generations. From hunter to guardian, John's journey had come full circle. Saving the bear had revealed his true purpose, allowing him to honor his father's legacy not through tradition alone, but by actively safeguarding the wilderness they both cherished. This forest, once merely his hunting ground, was now a realm of redemption, where every rustle and shadow told a story of survival, justice, and hope. In our next story, get ready for an incredible surprise. A dog who becomes the fierce protector of two lion cubs. Against all odds, he steps up with courage and loyalty, defying nature itself. Don't miss this heartwarming journey that will change how you see animal bonds forever.